This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello everyone and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host Mike Parkin and joining me as usual are Richard Hawes.
Hello everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
This week we have 4 main reviews. We're going to kick off with Dangerous Waters. Then we have The Price We Pay, 8 Found Dead, and The Devil Went Down to Islington. Our short shot is Dead Enders, and we're going to wind up with our DTV Throwback, Full Eclipse. Now, usually this is the point where I say, without further ado, let's crack on. But this is our 250th episode, guys. We've been doing this for quite a while. You'd think we'd get better at it, but no. But we've watched a shit ton of films as a result of doing this podcast. I've sort of been scrolling through sort of some of the things we've watched. I think the director, one of the most consistent directors we've covered and prolific is Jesse Johnson.
Yep, definitely.
His work has always been sort of pretty stellar. His action stuff. The only one I'm not entirely convinced on was sort of White Elephant with Michael Rooker and Bruce Willis. That one wasn't too good, but other than that, I think his standards have been great. And of course, we've got his latest film to review on our next episode, the Bodicea one, or Boudica. So looking forward to that. Other directors, should be really good. Another star who we really should be seeing more of is Jean-Paul Lai.
Mm-hmm. We covered Night Shooters, didn't we, way back when?
Yep, Night Shooters, Jailbreak, The Prey is another one that he wasn't involved in that one, but it was from the same director as Jailbreak, Jimmy Henderson.
And his short films, Speed Dating and such.
He's great.
As well.
Speed Dating was brilliant. Yeah, and it was really nice to meet the female star of that at Fright Fest. That was a nice
Fighting Spirit Film Festival.
Yeah. I said Fright Fest, didn't I? Bloody hell. Okay. So other directors that sort of jumped out. Coralie Fargett, who did Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Ted Gagan, who did Mohawk, and We Are Still Here. I don't know if you guys have seen Brooklyn 45 yet. It's on Shudder. That's another good one from him.
No, that's the Larry Fessenden one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Larry Fessenden is in We Are Still Here as well. We've had Scott Mann doing Final Score with Dave Bautista, and Heist with Dave Bautista again, and Robert De Niro was in that one as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, more recently he's been sort of graduating to bigger projects with not necessarily bigger, but on the films that are being shown on the big screen with Fall.
Fall was a good sort of high concept film for him, I think. Episode 90 was a standout because that was our Egyptian special. Who would have thought that we'd dig up 3 decent films from Egypt with No Surrender, Detention Letter, and The Cell? That was rather decent.
We've covered stuff from all around the world as we've been
absolutely.
going. I mean, it's long, full-length features and shorts. I mean, in our last Short Shots episode, which is the episode published just before this one, we were talking about action films from Uganda and stuff.
That was,
I mean, some really good, some really interesting stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. So I think the stand-up performance we have to give to Kelsey Grammer for Money Plane and Guardians of the Tomb. That was an absolute highlight. I think the Nadir has been just about every Bruce Willis film we've had to cover. Obviously, we know why, but even so, we still had to watch them. MJ Bassett with Rogue, that was a good one with what's her face?
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox, reinventing stuff. I haven't seen The Expendables 4 yet, but I've heard it's not great. But I do want to see it for Megan Fox. Mainly because she does seem to be sort of reinventing herself.
It's weird. They do a really weird thing with the introduction of her character is just terrible, and then they try to sort of backtrack on it and say like, oh no, she's like, they try to. Well, anyway, I'm not going to spoil it, but basically, they introduced her as like being the really shrill girlfriend kind of character,
right? Yeah.
And then they try and go, oh no, she's actually this sort of hard as nails kind of assassin character who's going to, be a really great asset to the team. But it's like, but what you guys did at the start, anyway.
Right.
It's like some weird stuff going on there. But yeah, I mean, what's interesting is in the world of DTV or whatever, we see people like Megan Fox trying to do different kind of roles, and some of them, it's like whether it's comedians doing serious roles, which we see quite a lot in, obviously in mainstream, bigger budget movies and stuff as well. But we see people just trying different stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And like for example, John Travolta in Gotti, that got a lot of flack. Some of the other films, we did a John Travolta special, didn't we? And we actually quite liked his stuff.
What was the other one he did, which he really got ridiculed for?
Well, it's the Fanatic.
Fanatic. That was the one I was thinking of. Yeah.
Fred Durst's film, and we've the kind of stuff we've covered from independent stuff and a lot of horror. We've seen the really hilariously bad sort of stuff like Code of Cocaine and
Diamond Cartel,
Fight of Fury. That'll always stick in my mind.
Yeah.
That one, the Diamond Cartel, but very entertaining in their own rights as well. But then you got the higher end sort of stuff that's sort of a bit more I don't know. It sort of falls into that more elevated kind of category of stuff like Sea Fever, which is using very much familiar sort of horror horror conventions and stuff, but is made to doing something a bit different, more like I've talked about Larry Fessenden's the Last Winter and stuff like that, of films that are just, they're sort of straddling a line. They're being like creature feature kind of movies, but then they're also quite thought provoking and stuff like that. So it's always quite interesting to see films like that emerging. And we also have the opportunity to see, like say, stuff from around the world. We've watched, stuff from several countries. It'd be really interesting to go through. I mean, Skyfire from China was really entertaining. That was a good quality one. And then we've seen, I think, like the Plagues of Breslau from Poland.
Yep, the twin.
Quite interesting. Interesting director, that one, Patrick Vega. He makes a lot of his stuff's like really gross, really. Quite. He sort of lingers on the grotesque and stuff. But Plagues of Breslau does do a bit of that, but it's a much more sort of accessible serial killer kind of movie, which I thought was quite a breezy, grisly watch. And that was cool. That turned up on Netflix, because we watch stuff from all over the place, don't we? We see stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got the screeners. We've got stuff that we find on YouTube, like whether that's like Cyborg Deadly Machine or Commando Ninja, the Never Hike in the Snow, and Never Hike Alone, that kind of stuff. And then say the other stuff that we just tracked down, and the short films, of course, and our throwback feature, which we introduced. I think way back when when did we start doing that? God, that must have been 2019, 2020, something like that.
It's when we sort of switched. We used to be with you hosted on SoundCloud, and we switched over to Podbean, and I think that's when we sort of decided to have a bit of a sea change with the format, basically, because if you remember, we used to. These episodes used to be like 3 hours long, and it was like an hour of actual reviews and 2 hours of us sort of going through every film which had been released that week.
Yeah. Oh yes, of course. I forgot. I remember we used to do the chart quite regularly and talk through what were the which now we've kind of relegated as just a little feature that we put onto the social media. But But yeah, we used to talk about all the new releases, didn't we?
All the new releases and the trailers as well. It was very
yeah.
Yeah.
And then as time goes by, you revisit, refine the format, and here we are now with our review section, short shot, and the throwback. Who knows? That might change in the future. We might sort of introduce other things and that. But yeah, I think we found a good structure here. I think that sort of works for us all and gives the show some diversity that we hope you guys listening have been enjoying across however many of the episodes that you've been with us.
I want to mention two other directors, quite dear to our hearts. One is Steve Lawson, of course.
Yes, of course. I knew he'd have to come up, doesn't it?
That's
really?
what I was going to bring up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously he's got to be the most prolific, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one is another homegrown director is Charlie Steeds, who's did loads of things like Winter Skin, Freeze, which I really enjoyed, Werewolf Castle, which we covered.
Oh yeah.
That's the only one I've seen of his so far, but I do intend to see more. I mean, he's got that the one he's got coming out next, or the one he's just finished producing. I can't remember what it's called, but it looks really interesting. Very much looking forward to that one.
Yeah,
I think it's like set in like an icy location, or
that's Freeze. Yeah, you can get that on.
Is it that one, or is it the other one?
It's got 4 coming up. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, there's one called Arctic's Edge.
That might be the one I think that might be the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
But
he's got 4 films in either in post or pre-production at the moment, which is interesting. A recent one was The Haunting of the Tower of London, which I haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, Death Ranch, that was another really good one. Winter Skin. Yeah, he's come up with some really good stuff. Lots of practical effects, very well written scripts as well. I always look forward to sort of catching his films. And Steve Lawson as well. He's honed his skills of sort of praising, literary works down to a few scenes, which he can sort of afford to pull off. And he does them really, really well. The Dracula one he did recently, we all thoroughly enjoyed that one. So
Ripper Untold is a particular one I've enjoyed. I think.
Absolutely, yeah, that was the high point. But even so,
also,
always looking forward to them.
Also, the one I'd really like to mention from my time coming on is Antrim, the deadliest film ever made. I still think that stands up as one of the best ones that I've seen.
I have to agree.
Yeah, that's silly because I skipped that one because I was a bit anxious about. Because of sometimes when these films get hyped up a certain way, I'm like, it's like there's I can't remember what it was recently, but there's a film I'm like, that was it, the new Evil Dead film, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I can, from what I hear about it, and then I think, I go and watch the Saw films. It's surely not going to be any worse than that.
It really is.
But you hear something, some sort of hype gets into your head or whatever, and it sort of puts me off sometimes.
It's only the cheese grater on the leg bit. That's the really sort of squirmy bit, really. The rest of it, there's more sort of surprising nods to the actual Bruce Campbell films than you'd expect. I was quite surprised. But anyway, we digress. Yeah. We've, as you say, we've covered loads of stuff. Literally. Usually anything that's Korean, I'm totally on board with. So there's no point in mentioning them, really. But French films, they've done loads of sort of police procedurals and that sort of thing. All very good. There's a Netherlands director we've covered called Thies Moïse. That's horrible. Who did the
Molly?
Molly and Kill Mode.
Yes,
which is the sequel.
Yeah, and Held Up Sock. I think I'm probably really mispronouncing that, but that was a short film that he did, which was really good as well.
That was really
good. Another director I'm quite always interested to see what he's up to. I'd be really interested to see what he does next. I do follow him on Twitter and stuff like that, sort of try and keep an eye out. But yeah, we've done, do you remember that there was the Werewolves Within film?
Mm-hmm.
That was really good. That was from our friends over at Signature, I think. who sent us a screener for that one. That was fun. That was very entertaining. Really, that was one of the highlights, I think.
Rightly, that was my film of the year that year as well.
And there was, what was the other? There was another werewolf film that came out around about the same time.
The Haunting
Wolf of something of Wolf Hollow. Yeah. That was
Jim Cummings film.
Jim Cummings, yeah. That was pretty decent as well. But yeah, lots of good stuff. There's been a lot of crap, as well. We had to put up with, what was that film, Pursuit, the one with
that's
Emile Hersch.
Emile Hersch will be coming up later.
I will be mentioning this film again later, but that, for me, that was the nadir. That really was. That was...
No! What was the one with the model who wrote, directed it, and
that was The Serpent.
Serpent.
That was awful.
It was, but at least it was fun. That's the problem. It was awful but fun.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one recently. I want to give that another watch, just to sort of, because I was quite, it was like I had certain expectations of it, and I was like, I'll go back and watch it and see if I can watch it in a sort of so bad it's good kind of way, and see if I enjoy it a bit more this time around, because it was a bit all over the place, as you would expect for a film, by a first-time filmmaker who's trying to wear so many hats. But can't fault them their ambition, trying to do that. So we'll give them that. Better than Pursuit.
No.
Yeah, that is such a low bar to cross. Anyway, I think we shall crack on with some reviews. Our first review then is Dangerous Waters. A sailing holiday spirals out of control when a teenage daughter uncovers the dark past of a mother's new boyfriend. I wasn't on board to begin with this one. I thought this was going to be, a single location sort of psychological thriller, but actually this, after the first sort of 20 minutes or so, this really opens up, and it really surprised me, actually. Possibly shouldn't have, because it was directed by the same guy who did, was it Blood and Money? The one with
Blood and Money with Tom Berenger.
Tom Berenger, yeah, exactly. So we very safe, fair hands. This is a lot more expansive than that film was. And makes great use of locations. We get some decent action as the film goes on. Interesting sort of cat and mouse stuff going on between protagonist and her tormentor. It is pretty decent overall. I really did like it. My only real criticism is the way it starts, because it's not exactly in media res. It's a framing device where it starts with her being interviewed or waiting to be interviewed by the police after the events of everything that's happened in the film. Towards the end of the film, we get a really good tense standoff between her and her tormentor. And, up to a point, it could go either way, because she's only a little thing, and these guys are sort of big, burly brutes. And it's like, well, this could be a really sort of dour ending. Oh, wait a minute. No, because they showed us that she survives the bloody film right at the start. So it takes away some of the tension from the film. I mean, we've seen other films use this device, like the film recently,
End of Term.
End of Term, yeah. But at least in that one, the detectives interviewing her were part of the story. It was hearing, so it kept going back to them because they didn't believe, or sort of doubting what she was telling them. This one, we don't get any of that until right at the end, when this cop sort of gives her a bit of, what would you say? A bit of positive energy, basically, at the end to sort of, give her a sort of a positive spin on what's happened, or her current predicament, which I quite liked. But it was just so annoying to have it there. It didn't need to be there, it's like, well, she's got a few cuts and bruises. What is it there? So people go, oh, I wonder what's going to happen to her, sort of thing. But in that case, we'll watch the film and find out. It annoyed me. But that was the only thing that really sort of ground my gears, as Peter Griffin would say. Steve, what did you make of this one?
It's a little slow to get going, and but I thought it sagged a little bit in the middle. But it's one of them. Like you say, she's a little thing. Yeah, she's not. I think she's supposed to like 17, 18 in the film.
That's so. Yeah.
And she knows nothing. That it says like she's learned stuff from watching action films of her dad, and then I've been to a shooting range a few times. Next thing, she's Rambo.
Basically, she's Lara Croft sort of thing.
It beggars belief a little bit, but it is enjoyable, and it's nice to see. Which is probably Ray Liotta's last film, I'd have thought. Now
I think it was,
because Cocaine Bear's been out, so I'm presuming this is his last one. But that's it. He's only what is it like 2 scenes?
One scene, I think. I think it's one scene.
Yeah, but it's so creepy. It's such a good, blimey bastard performance from him, and even Eric Dane as well. I've not really seen much of. I know he used to be in like Grey's Anatomy, that my daughter used to watch and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he's a great creepy little bastard in it as well. So it is enjoyable. It's obviously unbelievable, but it's shot well and shot really well, to be fair, I thought.
Yeah.
But I was more expecting, kind of like a Dead Calm thing like that.
Exactly. That's what I was kind of expecting it to go into, but it's like, no, there's pirates and all sorts, and in a unoccupied island and all this going on. It's brilliant.
Yeah. The scene where it turns, and people show up, that really threw me because I didn't expect that to happen. I was like, oh shit, they've done it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't expect it. Well, no, all in all, it's a decent film.
Yeah, we got Saffron Burrows in this as well, Rich.
Yeah,
playing the mum. How did you get on with it?
I really enjoyed it actually. I did think that she's way too good with a gun. She was just her aim was perfect. So, and it wasn't just like one shot; it was like several times. There's some quite good action in here. And it's a bit incongruous, but it is well done. The setup, I was thinking, is it that sort of Dead Calm? There was that other one recently with Cass Van Dien, which I didn't see. I think it was called like Dangerous Water or Dark Waters or something.
Well, even Scott Adkins did one, didn't he? Where he was
Dead. That was Dead Reckoning, I think, which I haven't seen either. But films set on the water, there are a whole bunch we've seen. From the small scale to the big. There was that rubbish one, The Fifth Passenger.
Fifth Passenger, I was about to mention,
which and then which had sort of monster or something, and then there was at the other end of the scale we've got like Project Wolf Hunting and stuff like that. Primal, Nicolas Cage film.
Okay.
So I was quite interested in the dynamic. The thing about the opening was I was thinking, I thought that was one of the other characters' voices, and I thought, I know what's going to happen here because that's his voice or whatever. But it ended up not being what I thought it was. But it was quite nice. It was interesting to see Saffron Burrows. Jesus, Saffron Burrows. Where's she been? Because I know I think she's been doing quite a lot of TV and stuff that I just haven't seen. But I was like, wow, it was like Deep Blue Sea was so long ago. And but she's pretty cool in it. She's playing an American in this one. Odeya Rush I hadn't seen before. I know she's quite a well-established sort of child star turned sort of growing up now. She really reminded me of Mila Kunis. I think probably because she's got like I know she's not got the same kind of heritage. She's more she's Israeli American rather than whereas Mila Kunis is Ukrainian, I think. But she's got that same sort of quite an interesting look about her. She's quite a strong character. So I thought she carried, because she basically has to carry the film basically as the heroine. I thought she did really well with that. But similar, kind of the same way to like Joey King did in like The Princess and stuff like that. So you got a lot of these more experienced people around her, and she's kind of got to hold her own and sort of be the sort of tough sort of, especially in the sort of the final act. She has that, like you say, great scene with Ray Liotta and all the stuff with Eric Danes, quite interesting. You can kind of see it's kind of telegraphed early, it's like, oh, some of the stuff he's saying and whatever, it's just like a bit dubious, and then it's sort of revealed. But it's a very solid thriller. I thought really entertaining. Yes, the whole I agree with you about the whole showing the in media res, showing the last part or whatever, does sort of ruin it a bit. It wasn't necessary at all. It doesn't add anything. It actually, like you say, it detracts from it. It's an unusual choice. Does initially, it grips you in because you go, oh, I wonder what's happened to her, and that's the idea. But then if they'd have gone to maybe a midpoint, and then the story went from there, but this literally was like the end. Without we should spoil anything, but so I would say definitely worth a look. It's John Barr, as you say, very good. This is only I think his second feature as a director, but he's got a lot of experience prior to that. But I think he's 2 for 2 now. So totally. We're very interested to see what he does next.
Yep. So on that note, scores on the doors. Steve, what do you make of this?
I'll give it 7.
7, yeah. And Rich?
Yeah, I'm going to give it another very solid 7.
It is a very solid 7 from me as well. It's a bit too slow at the beginning, and it's got that in media res thing, which annoys me. But it makes up for it in other areas. So this is definitely worth checking out. 3 7s for Dangerous Waters. Our next review is The Price We Pay. After a pawn shop robbery goes askew, a trio of criminals and their hostage take refuge at a remote farmhouse to try to let the heat die down, but they find something much more menacing instead. This is from director Ryuhei Kitamura, who we've covered before on this show with Downrange. Also, The Doorman.
Yeah.
Of course. Also, he's known for Midnight Meat Train and Versus before that. And this, for me, is another solid film from him. You can kind of tell it's from Kitamura because of the unique sort of camera angles and things that he throws in, even with the opening bit, which set at the rest stop. We're getting all sorts of interesting sort of camera angles, but nothing too. I mean, I've had to go at other directors before, but for being like just too stupid with their camera angles, like, oh, let's put the camera on the roulette table and all this sort of stuff. We don't get any sort of silly stuff like that. But
what about the editing though? What about the editing? Because he's got some very particular kind of editing in here.
Yeah,
like the judgery stuff, where it like sort of zooms in and sort of really almost like a crash zoom kind of thing, but it's clearly been done in the edit where they just sort of zoom, push in and then come out and sort of like.
I didn't notice it as much as the shot composition and things like that. The overhead.
Well, he only does it in key moments, doesn't he? So he's quite restrained. Typically, it's kind of just sort of kind of more standard kind of cinematography, and it's just the editing just goes a bit wild at certain points to sort of emphasize certain to evoke certain feelings in the audience at certain key points.
Now we've got both Emile Hersch and Stephen Dorff in this. Stephen Dorff has always been a pretty safe pair of hands as far as I'm concerned. Always sort of interesting sort of seeing him and stuff. There's a film he did ages ago now called Botched. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I might have. So I've seen.
it's-
He's done so many. It's like hard to remember them all. I remember the one where he got stuck in the back of a car, which was a bit like Buried.
Oh yeah.
But I can't remember what was botched. Explain it to me.
Botched. It's difficult to explain, but he's stuck in a old warehouse building, which is being used by these Russians, and it's like the very first thing that happens basically is like one of the guys gets his head chopped off. It's really good. I can't remember much about it now, but I remember really liking it at the time. And it is one of those films where it's just lots of running up and down corridors, basically. Sort of quickly redress a corridor and sort of reshoot it. But yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, but Emile Hersch, as we were discussing earlier, not so safe a pair of hands, basically. The infamous, well, we're making it infamous, Pursuit, featured Emile Hersch with the tattoo of a cockroach on his forehead. For fuck's sake, it doesn't get any better than that, basically. And he's got this sort of really stupid, whiny voice in that film. Here, he seems to be almost channeling Quentin Tarantino in From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah, that's what came to mind with me. Yeah,
He's a much more sort of quieter, still kind of psychopath. He's definitely a psychopath, and he totally enjoys what he does, unfortunately. But he has got this sort of stillness to him, which is really interesting. Until he's the one that's sort of strapped to the gurney later on, and sort of loses his cool a bit. But I was actually impressed with Emile Hersch in this one. I thought he was pretty damn good. Yeah, and then we get Vernon Wells, of course, turning up.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah,
I don't think Vernon Wells has had a role this good for quite a while. I mean, he turns up from when I see him and stuff. He's usually like a supporting character. It's like here he's like almost like he's main bad guy monologuing and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. No,
and he gets to be he's being himself. He's being Australian. Which is great as well. So he's not having to. It's Vernon Wells being Vernon Wells, which is fantastic.
You can run, but you cannot hide. So this follows the tradition of films like, funny enough, From Dusk Till Dawn, in that it starts out in one genre and then leaps across to another. So it starts off as a heist movie, and then sort of morphs into this sort of like, not exactly torture porn, but it's a horror movie. But
let's be honest, it's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's what it is.
Yeah, there are definitely elements of that. We've got this big hulking, sort of disfigured woman.
Leatherface.
basically the female version of Leatherface. We even get a chase sequence, foot chase sequence at the break of dawn on a farm. It's not too far removed by from that sort of thing. Definitely a homage going on there. But I do like that sort of genre shift. There's another one which I really like called The Rites of Spring. Rites of Spring?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Rites of Spring. Which is a similar sort of setup to this, in that there's a heist, it goes wrong, they've got a hostage, they end up on a farm. The difference is, in that particular film, the farmer's looking after this demon in a pit, and every spring he's got to feed it sacrifices to keep it in the pit, basically, otherwise it's going to crawl out. And it was one of those really good sort of textbook examples of like good people doing bad things for the right reasons, which is just one of the sort of themes I do sort of like. Nothing like that going on here. These guys, although Vernon Wells does try and sort of spin it that he goes after these people who are sort of wasting their lives when there's more worthy people who could be benefiting from their organs and things like that. That was interesting way to try and justify your mass murdering. But there you go. Now, Steve, I know you didn't see this, and I know you're sort of of a squeamish
disposition.
Yeah, I'm not a gorehound.
You're not a gorehound, but as I mentioned offline, you dodged a bullet because the final kill is well, it's excruciating for a start, but it goes on forever, doesn't it, Rich? It's you know, the injuries.
Are we talking about the one involving the wire?
Yeah, but even before that, you got you got acid and all the rest of it.
And, the acid stuff. Oh god, there was all that going on.
All that going on. She still keeps getting up, and then there's a really sort of poignant moment when she gets hit with a tranquilizer dart, and she, it's that look of like she's been totally betrayed by the other guy, and it's a real sort of poignant moment. It's like, oh, it's actually quite sad that that the way she feels. It's very impressive.
I don't know if you've seen Barbarian, but there are definite sort of parallels to that film with the monster in this one, and which again, the whole it all goes back to Frankenstein's monster. The sort of they didn't ask to be this way kind of thing. I was a bit confused about who the tall lady. Well, I'll just say Leatherface because I don't know what else to call it, but who the Leatherface character was and how they came. Was that one of the characters, one of the people he was talking? Because he talks about his daughter, and how she was a victim and stuff. But I don't think, because the boy is
Danny,
his like grandson, and that's clearly not his mother because he's not reacting to her already. So did you know who she was and how she fitted in?
No, but she's played by Erica Irvin, who's 6'8".
That's interesting.
Yeah,
because in Barbarian, I think the woman in Barbarian is actually played by a man. So that's interesting that they've actually got a woman playing the female character because she is really tall.
Yeah, very tall. Yeah, very interesting. But I definitely enjoyed this. I think I like Downrange a little bit more. This one, but it is another solid film from Kitamura. How are you going to score it, Rich?
I will score it, and then I'll just say a couple more things. I think just because it's so derivative of Texas Chainsaw, I will go 7. But I did think it was very slick. I really liked Stephen Dorff in it. I think sometimes like King of Killers, he maybe wasn't sort of as committed. I think here he was really good. I mean, Dorff's been around since a kid. He was a child actor, The Gate and everything, and I think he really takes his work seriously on all the he works in this sort of low budget realm sort of quite consistently, and I think he really sort of seems to have thrown himself into this, basically what is the George Clooney of the From Dusk Till Dawn kind of setup in this particular story. I just want to flag up. I saw in the credits the name Tanner Zagarino came up, and I was like, could it be the son of 90s action star Frank Zagarino? And it is, because Zagarino is just such a novel name that I thought could there possibly be another Zagarino, whatever. But I looked it up, and turns out he is the son of Frank Zagarino, which I thought was pretty cool. But then also on the credits, I noticed that the film was dedicated to Tyler Sanders, who's the young kid in the movie, the 18, he's like 17, 18 in the movie, and he died of something related, like a drug overdose kind of thing.
Right.
I don't know whether it was accidental or whether he was on, because it was, they say it's a fentanyl overdose or something. So I'm not sure how, what the full circumstances was. There was some mention of he wasn't taking drugs for like mental health issues or something. But I mean, that's tragic. I mean, he was good in this. He's playing the member of the group who is kind of the innocent, who's the one they try and sort of convince to sort of turn on those who care for him. And so I thought he did quite well with that role, and he'd done a bunch of other stuff, including I think him and Tanner Zagarino had both done like a 911 Lone Star episodes and stuff like that. But so I thought the cast were really good. just want to mention the lead actress, who was Gigi Zimbardo. I thought she was really good. I hadn't seen her. She's been around. She's done TV work and stuff. But so amid the sort of very experienced cast members like Emile Hersch and Stephen Dorf and Vernon Wells, I thought these sort of newcomers held their own quite well. And I thought it was interesting how we've got this Gigi Zimbardo playing this character in here, who's not a million miles away from the character from Dangerous Waters, sort of slightly different circumstances, but the similar kind of characters. And I thought that was quite an interesting dynamic that these two films shared. And and Ryuhei Kitamura, I thought he did a good job. Sometimes this stuff's a bit why did they hire him kind of thing, because you think the kind of stuff, Godzilla Final Wars and stuff, he does like you said, verses, crazy stuff, and then he kind of does this more mainstream. But I thought this one was an interesting sort of middle ground kind of thing, but probably a bit closer to the Midnight Meat Train sort of thing. And I just found it funny that it was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre knockoff with Stephen Dorff, who already did Leatherface back in like 10 years ago or something.
I like that.
So which was quite good. That was quite good. So sorry, a whole bunch of afterthoughts there, but I did enjoy it, and I would recommend it.
Absolutely. So 2 sevens then for The Price We Pay. I'm glad we finally got it as well, because I know this came out last year, I think, in the States. And it's taken a while to sort of turn up. But I'm glad, I'm glad it eventually got here. But 2 sevens for The Price We Pay. Go check it out. Our next review is 8 Found Dead. A holiday rental in the middle of the desert is at the center of a massacre, as different points of view at different times of the day unfold the story. So this is, it's basically at its heart a slasher, but it's trying to do something a little bit different with the narrative. So we've got 2 groups of people who, unfortunately, both the husbands look identical.
Yeah.
And that made it quite difficult to sort of figure out which timeline we're following. But we've got 2 groups of people who set off for this holiday home in the desert. Unfortunately, one of them is a bit sort of waylaid, so they get in there late. And so the first couple sort of turn up around about midday. The second couples turn up late in the evening, and then the cops are called, later at night, basically. And what we find with the 2 couples is that there's this other mysterious couple in the house already, like going, "What? Who are you? Why are you in our house?" kind of thing, as if there's been some sort of mix-up with the booking of this place. But it turns out to be something a bit more nefarious. And I think, from an audience point of view, we know we do know right from the off, because we've already seen what's happened to the cleaner. So we're kind of just waiting for the other shoe to drop. But I did like the structure and the way it's sort of built up. How about you, Steve? How did you get on with this one?
Not as much as others this week. I mean, it's a bit weird to me. I don't know why, but the older bloke, he just keeps throwing like Shakespeare lines out and stuff like that, and it's like an allegory on acting rather than just like a straightforward slash. And to me, that didn't work. It didn't gel. It was off-putting. It pulled me out of it, and I just don't get what they were trying to say really with it. It just confused me.
I felt the 2 antagonist characters were not as interesting as the filmmakers thought they were. I'll come back to that later on. But they get all these monologues and stuff, especially the guy. He gets to do all these sort of monologues about how he hates Jaws and all the rest of it. It's it's a bit getting a bit meta at times.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind meta stuff when it's done well, but in this, I just didn't think it was. And I don't know, it just a lot of the characters as well were. I didn't think they were actually that likable. To be fair, as well, you know.
What
Like
you
I say,
didn't like
especially
the socializing YouTuber or Instagram or whatever she was.
Yeah, it was like that one we watched the other week. You know, when it was all online, supposedly.
Oh, Chad gets the axe. Yeah.
That was it. Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that a bit as well, but not as relevant or with itself. But I don't know. It just seemed messy. It just took me out of it quite a lot.
All right.
How
about you, Rich? How did you get on with 8 Found Dead?
I liked it a lot, and I did think the sort of the cross-cutting of the different timelines thing did really make it really interesting. I see what you're saying with some of the confusion of at what point are we at, which couple are we at, because they were a bit too similar at times. But for the most part, I thought it worked really well. It reminded me a bit of Alone at Night, which I didn't like as much, which was a slightly different concept, but also essentially like this kind of going to stay at a place, and then, you know, there's somebody's threatening them and stuff like that. Yeah. So there was, and the police investigating, obviously in that one it was like Pamela Anderson sort of lingering around and stuff. And then here we've got like police officers turning up, and you know what points of the time, you know, what's going to happen, and when like you say, when's the other shoe going to drop and all that sort of thing. I thought it worked well. I thought the sort of couple were quite interesting. There was another film we watched ages ago, which was also about which I didn't like at all. Can't remember what it was, but it was the
one with the guy from Doctor Who, the Sylvester McCoy.
No, it wasn't. That was the others, I think.
One as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, which I really liked. This one was, but yes, that's a good call actually. As another film that's sort of in the same wheelhouse, that's a really good one. I really did enjoy that. But there was another one where this couple go. I think it was like set in like the 1960s or something, and it was all about like a. I don't know if it was JFK or something like that, but there was a couple, and they go to this house on like the lake, and there's a couple there, and they basically sort of have these weird conversations, and then there's this other guy turns up, and do you remember the one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Like it was a bit weird, and I just didn't gel with it. But this one's kind of a bit more engaging. I did like I mean, I'm not familiar with the actors who played the older couple, or you know, the whole cast is unknown to me.
Reminded me a bit of Lynn Shay.
Me too, exactly. I was like, so she reminded me of Lynn Shay, and he really reminded me of like not necessarily Martin Sheen, more like Joe Estevez, so his brother. So they've got like a Joe Estevez, Lynn Shay sort of vibe, which I really did like, and I thought he was quite he was really interesting. He didn't entirely look like a character. You know, you weren't quite sure where you stood with him, basically. But you know, we sort of do end up in a kind of I don't know how much to say. You know, we've seen couples who have been sort of more troublemaker kind of characters in the past, and these are like an older version of those characters, I would say. So I'll leave it at that. But they're really sort of messing with these couples all the time and stuff, and getting up to some stuff. And I thought it was really interesting. Doing something we've seen a million times before, but in a slightly different way, and I did think it works quite well.
I did like bits of it. I did like the sort of the different time settings and things. I thought that worked well. I thought one of the final kills, which we find out happens when the cops turn up, annoyed me. Well, it annoyed me because I thought it was going to go a different way, in which case it would have really annoyed me. But even so, it just seemed a bit, oh, how ironic. You know, the irony is just dripping off the screen. But there you go. The other thing which really annoyed me was the post-credit scene, which promised a prequel to go back to where it all began. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. Literally, you know. But
I think if you do that, if you go back and do a prequel, you are then making the film that I was alluding to earlier, which we've seen a million times before, which was, you know, that kind of crazy couple kind of thing. And that was what made this one interesting, was that you didn't know, you didn't expect it from this particular couple until you realise what's actually going on.
Yeah, I don't think this film is going to really do enough to warrant a prequel.
No. To me,
I'd be interested to see what the director does, though. Sorry, Steve, go on.
To me, it kind of, when that came up, I was just thinking of like X and Pearl, the Ty West films, and I'm just like, you ain't getting near that,
No, I mean, I haven't seen Pearl yet. I'm interested to see the next one. I'm not that bothered with Pearl.
I'm not seen Pearl yet, to be honest, but yeah, I do want to. I'll probably watch them all when they all.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that, because Pearl's just come on Sky, and I wanted to watch it, and I wanted to watch X as well, which used to be on Prime, but that's gone now, so I actually can't see X. so I'm sort of in a do I watch Pearl without having seen X kind of thing at the moment.
Honestly, I'd say no. I'd try and get X first. X is great.
X first. Okay.
X is very good. Yeah. Cool. All right then. So that is Eight Found Dead. How are we going to score it, Steve?
I'll give it a 6.
I'll join you on a 6, and Rich.
I'm gonna give it a 7. I really enjoyed it. It was a UK premiere at Grimfest recently, by the way. I can imagine that it probably went down really well there. I'm not sure why it didn't go to Fright Fest, but I think Fright Fest, Grimfest, any of that kind of horror movie festival crowd, I think would enjoy this. Thumbs up from me. 7.
Yeah, Grimfest is the Manchester Film Festival. Okay, so that is 2 6s and a 7 for Eight Found Dead. Go check it out. Our next review is The Devil Went Down to Islington. Set over the Halloween weekend, this follows an underachieving music teacher and his dodgy colleague who unwittingly sell their souls to the devil for 3 days' good fortune. Okay, Steve, this is a British, inverted commas, comedy, close inverted commas. It's not my cup of tea. It really isn't. This style of humor, it's the sort of hapless everyman kind of thing. It's like, how much worse can his life get? In 1 day, sort of thing. And it's just like, no, I just don't want to see it. I don't want to see this sort of Schadenfreude. It's just did not get on with this one at all. How about yourself?
No, I didn't, to be honest. I suppose it's supposed to be classed as like a horror comedy, but it wasn't funny. It wasn't scary. It was a bit of a mess, to be fair. I mean, at the opening scene, you've got some guy running down the road with these two like baby face things. Yeah. Which one are never explained. They turn up doing things halfway through, but they're never really explained. You presume that they're like minions of the devil, but you're not specifically told that. And there's like a scuffle, a fist fight, or something like that.
With a priest who's like, got these weapons, made out of crucifixes and things like that. I thought that was interesting. But as you said, nothing really comes of it, does it?
You can't. Well, not only that, you can't see anything that's going on. Yeah. It's so badly. I was edited.
Yeah, I was willing to pass. I was willing to sort of give that a pass. I thought, okay, obviously they don't have a fight choreographer or anything like that. So you use editing to hide it, and you just sort of rely on the imagery that they sort of put together, I guess. But even so, it
was terrible. It was terrible. And another thing as well. I mean, normally I love Michael Smiley. I think he's great. Like from Spaced and even Kill List and stuff like that. In this, I just thought it was terrible. Now, again, whether it's a script or what, I don't know. Well, let's be fair, it was a script because the script was awful. It makes no sense. It's like, I don't know, for the first hour, seems to be dragging its feet, and then all of a sudden they realise what's going on, and they've got like 20 minutes to sort out how they're gonna. And it's just putting too much in the last act, should I say, really. And we've seen this type of thing before, but done a lot better. I mean,
obviously the one that jumps to mind is Bedazzled,
Well, yeah, I'm there. Sorry, you broke up. I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah, no, as I was saying, the film that obviously comes to mind is Bedazzled. Yeah, both versions. The one with Brendan Fraser and
Peter Cook and Dudley Moore.
And that version, yeah.
But it's just, I don't know, just everything was just kind of a letdown to it, really. Performances, the script, even James Lance. I love James Lance, especially in like Ted Lasso and stuff. And in this, I don't know, he just like overacts. But I mean, look at it, the cast is actually quite decent.
Yeah.
Michael
Ainsley Harriott, isn't he?
Yeah. For a minute, Tessa Pete Jones, Ronnie Anaconda, Mark Benton. I love Mark Benton normally, but in this, he's just doing. Oh, it's just like something he's done a million times, but not as good. It's just such of a letdown. It really was.
It was cringeworthy, basically watching it. So on that note, how are you going to score it?
I'll give it a 5.
Yeah, I have to agree. I hope it does find an audience. I hope people do like it. But it really wasn't my kind of my kind of humor. As you say, it's got a pretty decent cast. A lot of familiar faces. Ronnie Ancona's in there as well.
Yeah.
Somebody I like. Sophie Calhoun. But it just doesn't work for me. It's just like
No.
It's trying to make fun out of a guy having a miserable life, and for me it doesn't work. There you go. So there you have it. 2 5s for The Devil Came. Or what was it called? The Devil Went
Down to Islington.
So there you have it. 2 5s for The Devil Went Down to Islington. Go check it out. Our short shot this week is Dead Enders. A convenience store is the last vestige of Tanglewood, a ghost town destroyed by a fracking company, but something has awakened down below to finish off the remaining locals. I was lucky to see this last week at Mayhem, the Nottingham Horror Festival, as part of their shorts program. It was one of the highlights. I really like this. It's got a very sort of lurid sort of color scheme going for it. It's sort of down and dingy in this sort of crappy town which has been ruined by this fracking company, and now these sort of creatures are coming out, and this it centers on this convenience store, this sort of quickie mart kind of place, and the people working there, and these 2 cops hanging out. Lots of good sort of visual gags in this one. I don't know if you noticed, but the cop was reading a magazine called Good Guy with a Gun.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really cool. Other little odds and ends. Some good bits of dialogue. I really like this. How about you, Steve?
Yeah, to be fair, I really enjoyed this. It was something different. It starts off, with the bug underground, and then the frackers, or the drillers, whatever, and switches to the petrol station, convenience store bit, whatever. And the bit that really got me is when she turns around to him and says, "You just stood here in front of 2 cops rolling a joint." He says, "Yeah, but he sold it to me."
Yeah, so yeah.
That had me on the deck. That was hilarious. But
and then the cop is on the way out and he goes, "Knock."
Yeah.
That got a good laugh. Yeah.
But when the bugs, whatever, it attaches to him, and it's kind of like a hive mind in a way, but you're kind of like doing what you were doing, and you don't know what's happening. And I just thought that was quite a decent twist, to be fair. And like you say, it's very lurid. A lot, the green, like neony green, kind of reminded me of Attack the Block a bit in a way as well.
Yeah.
With the teeth and the monsters and that. But all in all, yeah, I really enjoyed this. To be fair, I don't know, it's being used as like a proof of concept, and we're going to expand it or not?
No idea. I mean, I think it's sort of, I think it's pretty cool as it is. It did remind me of, it did remind me of another film called Slaughterhouse High. Is it Slaughterhouse High? The one with Simon.
The recent one.
Quite recent, yeah, with Simon Pegg. Yeah, set in this
in
public
school.
Yeah, and there's people fracking nearby, and they release these hellhounds. It's sort of similar sort of idea, but done quite differently. The bit I liked as well was when she, when she's got the thing on her face and she's like in this sort of dreamscape sort of thing, and she suddenly realizes that she's holding a cigarette. She's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it was quite good. Rich, how did you get on with this one?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. Very, very Clerks.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
That's, I think that's a clear influence. I think there's a lot of influences on display. In a lot of it. But that is probably the most prevalent. I love the fact that the bugs are practical. There's a lot of fun with them. It's reminded me of stuff like Ticks from the 90s, which is a favourite. The whole thing about the attaching and sort of getting into your head, this kind of stuff, reminded me of. I don't want to mention the film because it would spoil the film, the thing. But there was a film we watched recently, which basically had the same idea. So I mean, sure, other people have done it as well, but there's that kind of taking the victims and then making them not realize they're victims by sort of putting them in this kind of dream state kind of thing. It was about 15 minutes long. I thought it was really good. Set out the characters really nicely. There was also the Happy Mart short film that we watched recently, which was more of an action thing, but that was also kind of that convenience store banter kind of stuff going on, and sort of a crazy sense of humor, which I liked. But yeah, so this one's got it uses like news broadcasts and stuff to sort of show the wider, sort of set the scene of what's happening in the wider world while we're actually, fairly oblivious to what's actually happening. Splinter also came to mind because that's another one set in a gas station. Which also sort of played with some similar ideas of, very, very loosely sort of indicating, I think something's happening nearby that's probably set something loose, or there's something like it was a bit more vague than this one. It's a bit more transparent about what it's up to. But and then it's got there's a couple of nasty surprises in there and stuff. But I think the characterization and the script is really good. Say it's shot really well. Really enjoyed this a lot. Definitely going to keep an eye out for the directors, Fidel Ruiz Healy and Tyler Walker. They've done some other stuff, and I'm sure they'll go on to do some really, really interesting stuff. After this, I think this was really good. Mike, if I can just ask you, what other stuff did you see at Mayhem that we should be looking out for?
Yeah, there's a really good one called Flaggy Bag, which I really liked, which is about this woman who hooks up with a friend, from school. She hadn't seen her for ages and gets invited to this dinner party, and her friends sort of got these sort of very sort of posh hipster kind of things. Her sort of new circle of friends, and of course she turns up with this plastic bag and a bottle of Lambrini, and everyone's like, oh my god, she's got a plastic bag kind of thing, but then the plastic bag itself goes on a rampage and starts killing everyone.
Oh, it's a killer plastic bag.
Killer plastic bag. It's brilliant. Forgotten Lake is another one. Now we've seen a lot of really good 80s set summer camp slasher movies. Yeah. This one is done like a trailer for a 80s summer camp slasher movie, and it kind of centers around a brand of beer at the same time. It's really, really interesting. A blueberry beer or something it is. It's great. It goes into the mythos behind this guy who was just trying to pick blueberries and got killed, and he's come back from the dead and all this. That was a lot of fun. Dead End.
Apparently, it's a real beer. I think they've said. So from what I can see, says they. I just found an article saying local filmmakers team up with a brewing company for a new short film. So it's so I guess it's kind of like almost like a promotional sort of film product placement-y kind of thing that they've done. So it says made in the spirit of Friday the 13th and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it works really well. Really good.
Definitely keep an eye out for that one.
Sandra Gets a New Fringe is a pretty decent one, about this woman who's kind of ignored in the office. It's like everyone sort of takes her for granted and all the rest of it. And she ends up going on a rampage and killing everyone. That was quite good. And the other one is Bleep, which was very interesting, about this woman, couple lying in bed. Woman wakes up because she can hear a beeping noise downstairs. And she goes down to investigate, and eventually her husband comes down with her. To sort of, they end up having this big argument because she's listing all the things he hasn't done in the house, sort of thing. There's this big argument, and he's slamming the doors, the cupboard doors, and everything, and the drawers. And then it turns out they're actually both dead. And the beeping noise is coming from the ghost investigator, the paranormal investigator's machine, sort of picking up their activity. It's pretty funny. It's a good one. I'm pretty sure it's Toby Jones in that one as well, playing the investigator. Yeah. So
Toby Williams plays.
Toby Williams. That was it. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a British film, that one, I can see.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So those were the sort of standards, and a very, very quick one called Toast, which is literally, it's a bit like, what was that film? It was a cartoon. No, there's a cartoon. Sausage Fest, was it?
Sausage Party.
Sausage Party. It's a bit like that, where you got this loaf of bread, and each slice of bread is sentient. And they're getting picked out and put in the toast. And one of them comes out the toaster, the other one's burnt, and he's like, "Ah, my God, I'm burnt." It's brilliant. It's very quick, very, very simple, but very effective. Yeah. So those for me were the standouts anyway. Our DTV throwback this week is Full Eclipse. After a hostage siege goes wrong, Detective Max Dyer is surprised to see his partner, whose near death was totally his fault, be up and walking around. Not only that, but leaping over cars to get at the bad guys. It's not long before Max is introduced to Adam Garou, who has developed a serum to make his police task force almost invincible. But at what cost? This is, I remember when it came out, 1992, 93. It was a lot of fun. Directed by Anthony Hickox, who unfortunately passed away recently. It has got a very 90s cast, because not only do we get Mario Van Peebles, of course, we've got Patsy Kensit and Bruce Payne. Bruce Payne from Passenger 57, of course. Very sort of smarmy performance from him. I was just before I watched it, I'm thinking, was this the one with Bruce Payne or was it with that Julian Sands? It's like, it could go either way. It's like, yeah, this is the one with Bruce Payne. Anyway, very enjoyable film. I will talk about a bit more about it in a sec, but over to Steve. Had you seen this one before?
Yeah, I remember watching this when it came out years ago.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really remember much about it, to be fair. It's been that long, but I remember the kind of simple, the gist of it. And to be fair, it's cheesy 90s horror action film, and it's exactly what it says on it. I mean, I've forgotten how it started with his partner, basically. Where they both die hard in it through the events and stuff.
The thing is, he should have known, shouldn't he? He should have known as soon as, because the film opens with one of those sort of scenes where a whole relationship has to be sort of truncated into like 2 minutes. It's like, we've got to make this guy as sympathetic as possible because he's going to be dead in 2 minutes time.
Well, that's like they did the thing where it's like, oh, he's really happy, he's engaged. And I was like, right,
I'm engaged. I'm going to.
He might as well be wearing a red shirt,
How long we be partners now? 12 years. Yeah, I'm packing it in. I'm in love.
Yeah, I'm going to get married. I'm going.
Yeah. See, as soon as Mario Van Peebles' character heard all that, and they sort of turn up, he should be saying, "Not you, mate. You stay here. You've got marriage to get to and everything. You sit this one out, because what's going to happen in a minute? I'm going to do it all by myself anyway. So you might as well just sit here and watch the fireworks or whatever." Now, the interesting thing is the guy playing his partner. I just find his name again. Tony Dennison.
Dennison, yeah.
Now it was interesting because before putting the film on, I'm thinking, well, this is back in early 90s. I wonder if there's any actors that I now know who I wouldn't have noticed at the time, and lo and behold. As the film started, I didn't recognize any names in the credits that didn't jump out. But lo and behold, we get Tony Dennison. Any fans of The Closer and Major Crimes, or the TV shows, would spot him straight away as Detective Flynn from those shows. Long on the TV. But so that was really interesting. Yeah,
Dean Norris is there as well, which I was really surprised at. It was completely over the top, and I'm sure that wasn't his voice as well, because he's so high pitched. It was untrue.
See, I never watched Breaking Bad, so I don't remember him from that. But I'm pretty sure he was in what was the film? The Negotiator with Samuel Jackson, Kevin Spacey. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's in that.
He was in, hang on. No, was he in that?
He was.
Sure.
Yeah, just briefly.
He was in a Negotiator that was with John Hamm. So whether he was in the other one, let me just have a look. Yes, he was. Yes, he was in both Negotiator films.
Yeah.
Completely unrelated films, but yes, he was in both. Starship Troopers, obviously, he was
of course, he was the recruitment officer. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. No, he wasn't the recruitment officer. He was the commandant, wasn't he, at the training base?
He's definitely in that bit.
Anyway, So Mario Van Peebles' character, oh God. He should have known better right at the beginning, but we do get this great scene afterwards with Tony Dennison's character being rejuvenated and chasing after bad guys, sort of jumping over cars and stuff. I thought that was great.
It's very PM entertainment, that bit.
It is, and I mean, these guys, how are they still on the force? Because the amount of innocent bystanders who get wasted in both of those sequences is ridiculous. Very amusing. Other things I liked in this, it has the worst psychotherapist on record, I think. He goes to this sort of couples therapy session with his wife, and this therapist asks him like, well, okay, well, what's bothering you? Sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe trying to be sarcastic. So maybe it's sort of seeing my partner dying in front of me or something. And this therapist turns around and goes, "Look, we all lose people, mate. Yeah." It's just like, we all lose people. Don't worry about it. Just stop having a hissy fit. But it's there's a lot going on, but it's a good fun. Patsy Kensit. She was sort of riding quite high around about this sort of time. Appearing in films like Time Bomb as well. What was the other one she did? Was it Angels and Insects?
Is this around? Yeah, that is one. Yeah, is this around the time of Lethal Weapon 2 as well?
Yeah,
about 4 years after Lethal Weapon 2.
But yeah, quite enjoyed her in that. There is a very dodgy bit where after she and Mario Van Peebles have sex, and then Bruce Payne comes in, and then basically forces her to have sex again, kind of thing, sort of assert his dominance of the pack and all that. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to like in this one. So Rich, over to you.
Yeah, so I can't remember whether I saw this at the time, but I was essentially going in fairly cold, and I thought it was quite. I was picking up lots of little references, like so they're basically werewolf cops, but they don't really say werewolf much. But they sort of sprout these claws, and I was thinking, this is X-Men before X-Men. This is an X-Men. This is a Wolverine influence.
They put on those costumes, don't they? You know, with the helmets and everything.
Well, exactly,
X-Men.
and they even name check the X-Men. There's a bit early in the scene where I think they mention the X-Men, and if you think about it, Bruce Payne's character is Magneto, so he assembles this sort of team of, well, he makes them into superheroes, but he's essentially a super villain team who are sort of masquerading as sort of saying they're being the heroes, when actually, it's much more say nefarious. It's what he's up to. But the claws, I mean, there's Marvel comics like all over this, and in terms of an influence. And the other big influence, which is John Woo. Hard Target was out the same year, and there's so much two gun stuff. I mean, that bit with bit where he's going through the air duct. Yeah. He's literally crawling through the air duct trying to hold the two guns, which just looks ridiculous. But then there's a lot of diving going on with the two guns. I mean, it's so apparent. This was peak John Woo influence kind of period. Yeah. I thought that stuff was executed pretty well. I say Army of One was doing the same thing. Vic Armstrong was doing that around the same time. And the other thing, so we got, apart from the cast members you mentioned, Paula Marshall is in the team. She was in Hickox's Warlock sequel. I think around the same time, probably, or possibly just before this. I really like her. Jennifer Rubin has a very, very small role as like a widow. I think one of the characters, widow, she turns up, but she was. I would like to have seen her in it more, but she say it was a sort of a blink and you miss it kind of thing. A lot of the apart from the sort of superhero standard vigilante cop group kind of things, you could more recent relatives of this movie could be things like Street Kings or Den of Thieves, or Sabotage maybe with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But I thought there was a very strong sort of Lost Boys actually influence on it, with Mario Van Peebles essentially being the Jason Patrick character. How he meets, Jason Patrick meets Star, and she's the one who's kind of seducing him into joining the pack with Kiefer Sutherland's obviously the leader of the group, and clearly a bad guy and stuff, but he's sort of seduced into the sort of group. And that's kind of the same thing with Bruce Payne being that sort of Kiefer Sutherland kind of character. I thought it does play with all these kind of conventions and to try and make something that's actually a bit different for the time. And I don't think even now there's films. I mean, this is kind of a precursor to things like Blade and the Underworld films and all that sort of stuff. But I thought there's something really novel about this coming at this time, because I can't think of any other films really that were doing this. And what's interesting is it's an HBO film, which is kind of like they were kind of like the Netflix movies, Netflix originals of their day. They were films that were made to quite a high standard, but were possibly films that might not have got into theaters or were made to emulate theatrical quality films for the home market. Didn't have commercial breaks and all that sort of thing. So it was the HBO films usually sort of tried to do stuff like reasonable budgets, but they would sort of push the boat out a bit. And I think this one sort of stands out. I mean, a lot of the HBO films were dramas, westerns, biopics, that sort of thing. And this one's sort of very, very genre, which I appreciate. And yeah, I think it really does stand up. Really entertaining film, well worth checking out. It's not got much of I think it's on. I think in America it might be on like Tubi or something, but over here it's not really got much of an availability apart from on YouTube. But yes, I think it's a great little film. And the weird thing is, we talked about doing this. I think Steve, you brought it up like 4 weeks ago, about wanting to do this one, and then like we found a copy of it to watch, and I'd literally just watched it when the news came out of Hickox passing away, which I thought was bizarre. And so a lot of this film is actually since then. I mean, it's taken us a couple of weeks to actually get around to covering it, but a lot of people are actually talking about this film at the moment, as well as the rest of a lot of the other films that Hickox made, and films that a lot of his films did mean a lot to people like ourselves who grew up at that time.
Absolutely.
Warlock and stuff. So, yeah.
Well, I just want to sort of mention a few of his films. I mean, he started off with Waxwork, which I thought was superb at the time. I still like it a lot. I also remember the werewolf sequence in that one with John Rhys Davies. I thought that was very good. Sundown, the Vampire in Retreat, about vampires living in a Wild West town. I think that one's got Bruce Campbell in it as well. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's got Bruce Campbell playing the offspring of Van Helsing, or sort of.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was good. Waxwork 2 improved on the first one. I thought a bit more sort of jokey. That was really interesting. Again, Bruce Campbell turning up in that one as well for a little bit with his guts hanging out. That was quite funny. Hellraiser 3.
Which I think is out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it's part of the set, isn't it? I think
part of the set of the first 4 films. Yeah, I love Hellraiser 3. I mean, that was a big step forward for Hickox. Seemed to have a much bigger budget. Very playful. Probably not. I mean, it's probably is the most mainstream horror of the series. But I really like its scale, and think Terry Farrell in the lead, and all those great set pieces and that you put together. I love Hellraiser 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then we had Warlock, the Armageddon. I really loved the first Warlock film, and it took me ages. In fact, I think it was one of our throwbacks. It was the first time I got to see the sequel. So that was really, really good. Then
the weird thing is, you just to sort of step back a bit to earlier, you were saying about, is this the one with Julian Sands or is this the one with Bruce Payne? They kind of got mistaken for each other, and I think that was what led to Warlock 3.
All right.
Bruce Payne was then recast in that role, so that would confuse things even more. So yeah, so they both sort of were in the same kind of wheelhouse. Unfortunately, I don't think Warlock 3 was rubbish, basically. But yeah, Warlock 2, peak Julian Sands, great set piece sort of death scenes and stuff in that one. I'm really glad we got to cover that as the throwback a while ago.
And he even, I mean, if this is correct, Rich, he even dipped his toe into Steven Seagal territory with Submerged.
Yeah, quite infamously, I think it was one of his worst experiences, and he basically quit directing for several years because of it. So he made that in like 2005. Didn't make another film for like 4 years, and then I think he made the next one was several years. He basically only made like a handful of films after that experience. I think he tried to go a bit more independent. Didn't want to sort of mess with the producers and stuff. The sort of difficult personalities that he was, like Seagal, he was troubled with. But we did cover one of his last films actually, which was it was originally called Exodus to Shanghai. We covered it as Escape. I think it was Escape from the Third Reich. It was released that's quite a crazy film itself. But it's quite lots of interest. Not quite mainstream, but sort of going into sort of wild kind of areas, and that was quite a curious one. I can't say I thought it was a really good film or anything, but I do think it was an interesting one, and it was certainly interesting to talk about. Yeah, he was great. He's done so many a lot of say classics that we've mentioned, and then he kind of ended up in sort of DTV action, working with say Dolph Lundgren and what's his Amanda Sante and stuff like that. He did a film with Eddie Griffin and Vinnie Jones called Blast, which was a bit like a comedy sort of Die Hardy kind of thing. And so he's very much sort of an interesting journey he had. Really sad. He hadn't made a film for a while. I think he was retired, but so I still don't know really the circumstances, what happened or how he passed away. But yeah, really, really sad, and just very, very eerie to come across that in the news just as we were preparing to cover for this film.
Indeed. Okay, so we don't score the throwbacks, but we do recommend you check them out. We found a pretty decent copy for this film on YouTube, and we shall put a link to that in the footnotes. So go check it out. And that is the end of this week's show. So thanks to Rich and Steve for chatting about these quite decent films this week. Don't have any real complaints apart from The Devil Went Down to Islington.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that wasn't great. I don't feel bad for not watching it.
No, it's it's one of those ones when I'm watching, I'm thinking, I know when I'm watching, I'm thinking, this just isn't my sense of humor. This may fit somebody, but it's just not me. It's kind of like bad education or something like that. It's like just that's sort of like humor out of misery kind of thing. I just don't get it. But there you go. But other than that, the other films.
I might love it. I might watch it and love it. Who knows?
Exactly. But there you go. That's why we don't totally trash these things. But other than that, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter at the DTV Digest. Also, the Short Shots, where we put a new link to a short every evening around about 8 o'clock. Other than that, thank you for listening. Tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.